Manchester City 6, Ipswich Town nothing. By the 50th minute, Pep Guardiola was taking all his stars off, getting ready for the PSG game in the Champions League. A return to form? Well, we'll have to wait and see what our friend Janusz Michallik says here. But Ipswich Town and the battle to stay in the Premier League continues. A big win for Manchester City. Big. Put that in headlines here. But Luis Miguel Echegaray, welcome to ESPN FC Live, the final game of the weekend. Janusz Michallik, your initial reaction, 6-0 to Pep Guardiola and Manchester City.
I'm not used to this. I'm not used to such a straightforward win from Manchester City. Look, I guess it's a combination of so much quality that Manchester City possesses. And then, Ipswich, let's be honest, being a pretty bad team.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I kind of want to focus more on what happens from now on, as opposed to the game itself, as you mentioned. Man City did their thing, but like you said, it's been a long time coming to see this kind of margin for Ipswich Town, battling to stay in the Premier League, shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, I think, in this game, the 5-4-1 formation, constantly playing from the back. What did you see today, at least individually speaking, from Manchester City that you liked? I mean, it was 6-0. I know it's Ipswich Town, but still, it's been a long time.
Yeah, look, Phil Foden, we've seen glimpses of that already, right? This is not the first game. He's been scoring, 5 of 6 last games, I guess. We saw the best player in the Premier League who had a terrible start to the season. I guess maybe it started European Championships, obviously not the proper preseason, Manchester City being off a little bit, and Phil Foden was unrecognizable, as were so many different players. I'd like to say that Ruben Dias and Ederson being back in the team, but they weren't tested today. So Kevin De Bruyne, yeah, he was amongst all the goals, but it still doesn't seem like the same player in terms of sharpness in what he does. Right? Again, glimpses. Doku was absolutely outstanding today, probably the player of the match. Right? Because he was involved in just about every goal that they scored. But I'm going to wait. The test is going to come in the games to come. I just had to look at some of the games and forget the fact that they have Chelsea and Arsenal next. But then comes Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs, which they struggle against, and Nottingham Forest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 games. That will tell us everything we need to know about Manchester City. And can they grow? Can they go on the runs that we've seen before? Based on what we've seen so far, even today, I don't know if I could say that they're going to win all 6 of them, but I still do feel somehow that when it's all said and done, it's going to be Manchester City that are going to be the closest to Liverpool in the end.
Well, that's where I was going, Janusz, because, after this win, by the way, the 13th time that Manchester City have scored 6 or plus more goals in a Premier League game under Pep Guardiola, as many times as Arsene Wenger's Arsenal, with only Sir Alex's Manchester United 14 netting more occasions. Thank you to our producers there for all the stats. But that's where I was going, Janusz. Okay, this win is massive. We know that there's going to be bigger opponents coming later, beginning, of course, in the Champions League with PSG, because they're not out of the woods there as well. But to your point, with this win, they're in the top 4, albeit until at least Chelsea plays Wolves. Better goal differential than Newcastle United. Is this now the snowball that's going to grow for them? They've got new players that have come in now as well. Marmoush, of course, and some others in the transfer window. Do you consider them then the closest to Liverpool for the title? More than Arsenal, more than Nottingham Forest there, I say.
It's possible, but I just read that schedule. You're not going to flip the switch just like that, and they're probably not going to go on a run and beat all the teams that I just mentioned. And they would have to do that to be the closest. It's quite possible, but it doesn't really matter. All that matters, this season is over for Manchester City. Done and dusted. The only goal that Manchester City have is to make it to top 4. It may be top 5, right? Because most likely that's what England is going to have in the Champions League. That's all that matters. Anything else may be a bonus. You've mentioned Paris Saint-Germain. That's the way. Look, it's no coincidence that this is a bad season, not just in the Premier League. They're sitting in 22nd place in that table in the Champions League. And, PSG, away. Yeah, PSG are not special, but they themselves just got Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, right? Who's going to be available? I don't know if he's going to play. They've been doing okay in the league as well, so that's not going to be easy. And they just may have to rely on the game against Bruges at home to make it to the playoffs, just to get to the final 16, right? So let's wait for that. Look, this is a reset year, and it's a good one. It's a great reset year because Pep Guardiola has signed. Erling Haaland, forget 9.5 years and all of that, but he made his intentions known, and that's big for some of the existing players that they have and some of the prospective players that they may go after, right? I mean, if you consider a bad season, yes, City's having a bad season, Spurs having a bad season, Manchester United having a bad season, but there's a massive difference, right, in those commitments from Pep Guardiola and from Erling Haaland, as opposed to players will want to come there. Yeah, Marmoush is coming. We'll see what he's like in the Premier League, but I think we're going to see more signings, and I'd like to think that you're going to see normal service resume next year. This one, are they going to be the second best to challenge to be next to Liverpool? Maybe, but who cares? That's not what Manchester City is all about. They're about winning everything. So it doesn't really matter to me, really. I mean, it's a good step, and the test will come. Chelsea home, Arsenal away, Newcastle home, Liverpool after that as well.
But just to be clear, you don't see them winning the title.
No.
Yeah, no. I want to be clear.
No, they don't see it themselves, right? I mean,
but if they're they're the closest to Liverpool for the title, because if you don't see them winning the title, then who's the closest to winning?
They could be. They could be, but again,
the gap is too big.
You're not gonna hear anything sensational from me. All I'm saying is that I wouldn't be surprised if they start clicking, like we're seeing again. But I look at that schedule; it's formidable. So they may, but still Arsenal there again. All they care about is finishing top four, because that's all they can really hope for this season. Nothing more.
Yeah, and they'll be much bigger, tougher opponents than Ipswich Town, with all due respect. Just a quick word, Janusz, on Kevin De Bruyne, because I saw him pretty good today. I know it's Ipswich Town, but we saw the old Kevin De Bruyne. I thought he was battling for everything, great vision. I mean, it wasn't just him. You mentioned Jeremy Doku, man of the match for you, other players as well. But thoughts on Kevin De Bruyne, because he obviously has a contract to negotiate if he is indeed staying, or maybe he might go somewhere else. What did you make of his game today?
Nothing even close to the best of Kevin De Bruyne. And maybe the injuries and all that, but you remember Kevin De Bruyne at his best, right? This was a player that wanted every ball. Whatever the ball was on the pitch, he was there to take it, to run the game, to play 1-2s, So today was better, but I think physically he's nowhere near. What we saw today is the quality that he possesses, right? He can still set up a goal, but physically he's nowhere near. So maybe he needs a little bit more time. A big question mark if he's going to be there in the end next season, right? In terms of his contract, in terms of what he hears in Saudi Arabia and even Major League Soccer. But again, baby steps for sure for Kevin De Bruyne, just like Manchester City. But there's so much more that I've seen from Kevin De Bruyne than I even saw today. I know there's a temptation to say, wow, today about Kevin De Bruyne. It was good, but nowhere near his best.
Yeah, I mean, he is also getting older, recuperating from injuries. Regardless, a 6-0 win. Very quick on Ipswich. Are they staying up?
It's not going to be easy. Look, I mean, they didn't do themselves any favors today, right? A loss is one thing, but conceding 6 goals at the end of when it's all said and done, that's going to matter. So they've given us some glimpses throughout the season when they're organized, they're tough to beat, good on set pieces. Today, I mean, couple chances, right? I mean, it was 2 set pieces within a minute, almost, or 2 minutes. Hutchinson, that strike over just over the bar, and I think the consequent. Corner, I think there was a header from O'Shea, and maybe Ben Johnson, if you remember, Ederson came up with a big save. Other than that, nothing to speak about. I mean, they'll have a chance. I mean, they're a tough team. When everything goes their way, they're a tough team. But yeah, they're in that conversation. They were before the season, and they're going to be throughout for me.
Yeah, as Leicester City, of course, Southampton, even though with that fight losing to Nottingham Forest, and Wolves, will have to see what they do against Chelsea. Regardless, Ipswich Town back in March in 1995 suffered a 9-0 destruction to Manchester United. Andy Cole scored 5 goals in that one. It wasn't Manchester United, it was the other side of Manchester that won 6-0 today as Manchester City return, at least for now, to the top 4 in the Premier League. Janusz, Michallik, Miguel, Echegaray, have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Till then, bye-bye.